is we've gone through older rulebooks from previous editions all the way back to 2001. And we've picked out profiles that have gotten the most change, and we'll kind of react to them and compare them with how they are now and how they would be if they were to exist today. So the game's over 20 years old at this point, so expect a lot of crazy profiles, and yeah, this should be fun. Okay, so we're just going to go and start from 2001. Fellowship of the Ring, first edition of the game. And just to give some context, back then, I don't think there was match play. The game was narrative based, and it's all about playing through scenarios that happen in the movies. So the profile will sound really crazy, but that's how the game was played back then. So the first profile we'll be going over is Arwen Evenstar. And she's not too different based on like the stat line. She does have 2 attacks and 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate, so a little bit different there. But I guess what I wanted to focus on was that she gets a spell called Confound. It's a 6-inch magical power, 4+ to cast. Arwen can use this power to raise the forces of nature to send her enemies reeling. The spell affects all enemies within 6 inches of her, but only one effective foe can attempt to resist it. If resisted, all foes are unaffected. If the foe fails to resist, then all are affected. And all enemies within 6 inches of Arwen are driven directly away beyond the radius of effect. All models affected are thrown to the ground, suffer a strength 3 strike, and lose 1 point of will. So this was before Nature's Wrath was written. And just imagine the successful casting of this spell. All models move 6 inches away from her, are knocked prone, and take a hit and lose a will.
Absolutely destroy ring rates. Yeah, this feels like a special rule that was specifically written for like that Ford scenario where she's trying to run away with Frodo, and instead they're like, let's just put it in the profile.
It's like a combination of Nature's Wrath and Instill Fear.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a ridiculous spell. Like, definitely overpowered. And yeah, she doesn't get the 12-inch move horse, but 2 attack, 2 wounds, fight 6, 3 might, 3 will, 3 fate on 65 points. I mean, just that stat line is already broken.
Yeah. The second one is Galadriel. And I'll just tack on Celeborn too, because they both kind of are similarly written. So basically, they're a lot cheaper. First of all, Galadriel at 90 base and Celeborn at 65. And this is a very theme-based rule. It's called Lothlorien. So if you're playing outside of Lothlorien, Galadriel has 3 might, 3 will, and 3 fate. If the battle's fought within the boundaries of Lothlorien, Galadriel has no might, will, or fate store, but she gets 3 might, 3 will, and 3 fate per turn. That is the biggest change.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man? Bro, I'm out, man.
I mean, that's pretty insane. I mean, I don't think it'll happen a lot, but can you just imagine rolling up at a tournament and then there's some like Lothlorien looking trees and you just ask your opponent, like, can you confirm this is Lothlorien to you? And then after they answer, you bring out your army.
Just walk up to any table that has trees on it. This is Lothlorien, right?
To a lesser degree, Celeborn also have this rule, but instead of 3-3-3, he's 3-2-1, which is still insane. Oh man, he only gets 1 fate a turn.
I just want to say as well, I guess he's been getting the short end of the stick from the beginning of time because he has 1 attack for an elf lord, whereas Arwen, as we just saw, same points value and already has 2 attacks.
The mirror is a little bit different. The mirror restores 1 fate. I think right now it restores all fate. She also doesn't have Blinding Light. I don't think that rule existed yet, but still just like a powerhouse. Like sometimes when I have a mighty hero like with 1 might a turn, I'm not even sure what to use that might on, and she gets 3 a turn.
You're basically just immobilizing on a 6 like every turn, man. Yeah. Just casting, I'll just boost that up to a 6. Yeah, why not?
Ian, you wanted to go for the next one?
All right, so next we have Gwaihir. So, this is interesting. Okay, so he's fight 8, but he's only strike 5, 1 attack, 3 wounds, courage 6, and I guess D8. He's 75 points, and he only has 1 might, 0 will, 0 fate. However, he has the fly special rule, but it's a little different. Oh, this isn't the super ridiculous one. This is the one that he only gets to move 24 inches a turn.
I think this is the super ridiculous one.
Or is this the ridiculous one? Yeah, so he gets 24 inches of movement a turn, which is insane. Like, if Reconnoiter was in any pack, you would always take him and just get him off the board in 2 turns. Boom, boom. I have points now. That's crazy. And then I think this is the one, this is the one where Gandalf could jump on him, right? Yeah.
No, I think anyone can mount him, right? Or is it just Gandalf? I think you need Gandalf to include Gwaihir in the army.
Oh, yeah.
I think what's crazy about the fly, though, in this edition is you can hover in the air at the end of your move and decide not to fight. So you can move your 24-inch halfway across the board, and if you're in the middle of a battle line, you can choose to remain in the air and not have anyone charge you. That's insane. Like, can you guys imagine, like, Seize the Prize? Just going to be like, oh, I'm going to stay in the air. No one can charge me.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that's insane.
Can't touch me.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. And any objective scenario, you can easily just camp on something.
Wait, yeah, how does that... Wait, what? Yeah, did you just sit there and then, you can't come within 1 inch because of my control zone, but also you can't charge? Is that how that works? That can't be how that works.
What if you just mount Legolas on the Gwaihir and just shoot bombs from the sky like Apollo?
Also, models shooting at Gwaihir, they're basically reduced to half range. So if Gwaihir is over half their normal bow range, they can't shoot him.
Flying high up in the sky.
Crazy.
That's crazy. Okay, like the fly is crazy, but I still can't get over the carry a rider. Like, we just talked about Arwen. Imagine carrying Arwen and then she does her crazy confound spell, like, or you mount like Galadriel with her 3 might a turn. And then you basically have a command distance of 36 inches.
So it says that when somebody like Gwaihir picks up a rider, you can carry a single rider. The usual rules for mounts apply, except that if the rider is thrown from his back while flying, the model just loses all its wounds. You can save that with Fate, but you could just instantly die.
Yeah, just Fate it. Who cares?
But also,
Galadriel gets 3 a turn.
Dude, part of the fluffy text, it says, like, if you save it with Fate, you assume that Gwaihir makes a heroic crash landing. I was like, this is wild, man.
We have the Balrog at 250 points. Stats fairly similar. Still no might and still no fate. The will is equal to the wounds. Is that?
Yeah, so however many wounds you have left, that's how much you can roll to resist.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. That, I mean, I feel like that's quite good. Starting out, you have 10. So I don't think a lot of people are getting through that. And you're not going to get wounded very much. So I think that's definitely an upgrade from the current version. I mean, the points value is already different. So Terror, Goblin Mastery is pretty similar. I think the Lash works a little bit differently here.
Yeah, so you have 4 attacks, and then you nominate one of your attacks to be the Lash. And I think if that dice wounds, then you get 2 more attacks. So you can potentially have 6 strikes if you win the fight.
Okay, so I guess that's more simple. The current Lash is probably better, gives him a bit more striking range. But I mean, at 250 points, and he doesn't get the hero combat, but I feel like this would still be stronger than the current profile. What do you guys think?
I think this is really good, especially if this was first edition of the game. There was no heroic strike. And, there's not a lot of heroes that can deal with it. I know we mentioned Galadriel, but if her spells don't go through, it's pretty hard to take them on. I know in later editions, the Balrog went up to like 400 points for a while. And for a while, he was a meme profile. But this one is pretty scary.
I mean, so far, all the profiles we've read are really scary.
I'm scared!
I think, like, the current edition, reading back to this, I had never actually read these profiles from first edition until now, and I'm pretty freaked out. Guys, I'm scared. Some of these things, like, come on, he gets 4 attacks, and then the Lash can give him another 2. He gets 6 attacks, he's got 10 wounds and 10 will points, and I know some people say, like, first edition was kind of like, if you played good, you won. If you played evil, you lost. It was like, well, I don't know. Balrog's got 6 attacks.
I will say an interesting thing to note is I was looking at like some of the profiles in the editions like after this, and for the most part, things aren't horribly imbalanced. Like there's no like crazy special rules. It's mostly just like, this should be like 10 points more expensive. This should be a little bit cheaper. But like these ones from the first edition, you just kind of batch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they got it right pretty quickly. But I might suggest that, if everything is broken, maybe nothing is broken and it's balanced.
For the next one, we're going to move forward a little bit to 2006. This was when the Fall of the Necromancer supplement came out, and we got the first edition of the Spider Queen. It's a very talked about profile on this podcast. So if you look at the profile, the stat line is pretty similar. It has like 1 less might, and the Broodlings have a little bit shorter distance. But what is crazy about this one is the ridiculous points value of 75. And I remember when the profile first came out, it was considered an unnamed hero. Because I remember at events, people were bringing 2, 3 Spider Queens. And it wasn't until like a couple tournaments later, people like confirmed, FAQ'd it to be a named hero. But just imagine having multiple Spider Queens that can spawn Broodlings.
Yeah, I guess no additional comments. It's good.
It was really crazy good. Ian, one of your favorite profiles. Do you want to read the next one?
The original Outwalker. Glorious profile that it is. So basically the profile is exactly the same, the base profile is, except, it just has Expert Rider as a special rule. It doesn't have the special Courage rule that it has now. And oh yeah, wait a second. What's this? They're heroes and they have 0 might, 0 will, and 1 fate. That's not that much of an issue, you would say. Oh my, you would be incorrect, my good sirs, because this is before the era of the Gambling FAQ, when Gambling's special banner would give 1 point of might to every Rohan hero within 3 inches, I believe, that did not have any might at the start of the turn. So you would end up with a ton of these Rohan Outriders just standing around with a free point of might to use on their shooting attacks every turn. And they're heroes, so they don't count towards the bow limit. It's absolutely disgusting.
For 10 points.
Yeah, 10 points and then, horse for an extra 5 points. Absolutely insane. Can you imagine, like, a Rangers of Athelion list or Rangers of the North list, but, like, with this instead? Oh, it'd be so much better.
Yeah, that's pretty filthy. But my question to you is, if we consider the Gambling nerf, would you take this model in the current edition?
Take one of them, like stick him like right beside, like, because then you can still have like use it as a warband drop for deployment advantage, and then he can just follow Gambling around using free points of might. Like, I think that's arguably better than Aldor or Haleth because he's just so cheap. Like, you mount him, he's still 15 points. That's still super cheap.
But normally when you take Gambling, there's probably a better suited hero to get that might, right? Like, even giving it to Gambling himself, so he can perk defense every turn.
Yeah, but you have to go down to 0 points of might, right?
Yeah.
So in the early game, like 15 points for that, I think is probably worth it.
True. All right, Richard, you want to cover the next one?
I guess it's just the Far Harad models. Okay, from first glance, they look pretty similar to the current edition. Not much has changed. They're a bit more expensive. Mahud Warrior is at 11 points. The Camel, the Raider, is fairly similar at 20. The half trolls at 22. What pops out to me is that the warrior and the camel has 2 attacks base and fight 4. Yeah, so I guess that's actually really good.
It's like a berserker.
Yeah,
I 11 points, man.
I think the half troll is the one that didn't really change, and because the warriors are so good, there's almost less reason to take the half trolls.
Yeah, so the only difference with the half troll is they don't have terror back then. And also for all 3 profiles, they're courage 1 instead of courage 2. So their weakness is even worse.
How does Warrior Pride work in this?
Warrior Pride,
iteration?
So it's similar to the army bonus now, but it's like it would cover your whole army.
And it reminded me in this edition, was losing a courage test after breaking, was it instant removal or was it you just run towards the closest edge? Because if it's run towards the closest edge, then Courage 1 isn't that bad.
I think at this time it was removal. I think that was the blue rulebook where they changed it to count as a casualty.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kind of missed the days of the conga lines of guys just running back and forth. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, for listeners who aren't aware, there was a point of time where instead of removing the model once it's failed a courage test when your force is broken, you move away from your enemy, your full movement, instead of being removed. So there were just situations where your armies would move back and forth after they'd broken. One more thing I could spot is that Impale back then is just a strength 4 hit that you deal on your way in. So the way it's worded, you couldn't do it more than one turn. So like if you kill that model, I think that's it. It's not as devastating.
I think this is probably the most balanced version of that rule, by the way. I hate the way that it works right now. It's so good.
Yeah, all you have to do is give them 2 attacks and fight 4 to balance that. Well, then we can make the Impale worse.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so
This is reminded me of another profile that I don't think we have on here. Not broken in a good way, but kind of broken in like a general sense. And this is the original iteration of the Kondish mercenaries, where basically you would take an army of them, and they were kind of underpointed, but you would roll a die for every single model in your army before the game started. And on a roll of a 1, the model just didn't show up to the fight. So you would just end up with like 1/6 of your army not showing up because they were mercenaries.
I like that. I like that.
So funny.
The next one is going to be a bunch of profiles, and it is the Ent profile. So this is from the Best of White Dwarf. It came out in a magazine, so it's not an official rule for Ents. So the basic Ent profile is the same. It's a little cheaper, but it's pretty similar. It doesn't have the new brutal power attack, but it does have a tree-ish rule, which is they start asleep, where you have to roll like a dice every turn, and if the dice rolls less than the current turn number, then they wake up. So the first few turns of the game, they won't really be moving or doing anything. What's interesting is this White Dwarf article included upgrades where you can get different species events. So some of them are slightly stronger. Some, like one of them doesn't need to wake up. One of them has like better magic resistance. So I think that's really cool. And I think if that existed today in the Fangorn army, it would provide a lot of utility, and also just you don't have leftover points, which I feel like, especially before Warren Rohan gave them the 2 new Ent heroes, I feel like a lot of the times playing Fangorn, you just have leftover points, and that's always like a feels bad moment. So I think if they included these sort of special rules, it would make the army a lot more interesting.
It just gives more customization, and yeah, you could definitely build a more well-rounded Ent force.
Yeah, it gives them more utility, because most of the time I think people don't consider this as like a viable force going to a tournament. It's just you're going to face certain armies that's just you're just not going to have much of a chance against. Not saying they'd be super competitive, but they'd be closer. All right. So the next profile is Watcher in the Water. So again, this one wasn't an official rule. Okay, it came out in a White Dwarf as well, and this was, I think, it came with a battle report where someone did at the Gate of Moria. And there wasn't an official model until a little bit later on, where Games Workshop actually released a pack of tentacles. There was like a metal set of tentacles where they were all on cav bases, and there was no Watcher body model with the game. You just got the tentacles. And so this wasn't actually in any sort of edition, but it's more like a scenario profile. So it's really hard to compare to the current Watcher because they're nothing alike. But essentially, the tentacles move independently, and you can try to drag a model if you win the fight, and instead of trying to wound them. And then if you wound the tentacle, then it drops whatever model it grabs. The Watcher body is, again, because this is a scenario model, it doesn't have any wounds. But what happens is if you've picked up a model, you can try to drag it into base-to-base contact with a Watcher, and then the Watcher will make D6 strength 8 hits to try to eat it. And then if they're eaten, they die. So it's like unrecognizable compared to the current Watcher profile. I don't think it would work in a match play sort of setting, but yeah, very interesting.
I like the eating part. I feel like that should be in more profiles. Nom 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 nom.
If the current Watcher profile had like tentacles on separate bases, they would make it really interesting, but also a little bit too complex, I think. Like if each tentacle, instead of it being a shooting attack, it was a base.
Yeah, wait, does it say that they have to stay within a certain like radius of each other? Or can they just move anywhere on the board?
I assume it would have to be on water if I don't think so.
Oh, okay, yeah. So if it's just in a small water feature, okay, yeah, I guess that makes sense.
Yeah. It doesn't say it has to be in water, but the Watcher body cannot move out of the water.
The tentacles just go everywhere. Ugh.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Sure, yeah. So we have Elrond and Gil-Galad. Elrond's 120 points. Gil-Galad is 125. They have pretty similar stats as now, with the exception of the fight value. Elrond is the one with fight 9. And Gil-Galad is fight 6. They don't really have all their special rules that they have now. Gil-Galad is fearless, and he just has a regular tall spear, and Elrond has a two-handed sword. So I wouldn't say like these are broken in any sense just because they're just base profiles, but I guess it's kind of wild that Elrond has fight 9, but having a two-handed sword and not being able to take a horse, I guess makes him not too bad.
I give him a 6.
Oh wait, this was back when like your fight value only applied to your dice, right? Okay, that makes Elrond not that good actually. I was gonna say 120 points for fight 9, that's pretty good, but never mind. That's not great.
So what Ian is saying is if Elrond is supported by like a spearman or if he's in a multiple combat, only Elrond's dice are fight 9. You don't take the highest in the fight.
Yeah.
So there wasn't heroic strike back then, so fight 9 basically means that his 6 would always win unless you're fighting the Balrog. Also, this was before the time of cavalry, because this is Fellowship Edition. Cavalry didn't come until Two Towers, so being like a foot slog sort of hero isn't too bad, I guess, because everyone was on foot.
But yeah, wait, this Gil-Galad, that's not from the same edition, is it?
I believe it is, yeah.
Why is he more expensive and he's just flat out worse?
Well, he doesn't have a -1, right? Elrond has a -1.
I mean, I guess, but he's got like 3 less fight, 1 less courage, 2 less fate, and all he has is fearless.
Yeah, the fearless is not the fearless that we know now.
And he's 5 more points. Like, that's just so weird.
Yeah, I don't get the reason. Ian, I think you know this one well. This next one is Thranduil, and we're going to be comparing the one from the previous edition, the Hobbit edition, and then the one from the edition before.
Okay, so the OG, the original Thranduil, he's great. I miss him. It's kind of like a base profile you would take now for Thranduil with the Circlet of Kings, but I'll just run through the profile quickly. So he had fight 6 with a 2-up shoot value, strength 4, d5, 2 attacks, 2 wounds, courage 6, and 3/2/2 for Might Well Fate, and he's 90 points. He has armor and an elven cloak, the good elven cloak that it used to be, elven blade, an elf bow, and an oaken staff. He also has the Circlet of Kings. Oh, this is a different Circlet of Kings. The Circlet of Kings actually got better in the next edition. So in this one, it only gives him the Aura of Dismay once per game. However, in the edition after that, it also gave him Nature's Wrath, which is as we know now. But yeah, in any case, this profile is just absolutely insane for 90 points. Like it's so good. And like the utility was great and just, yeah, no, it was ridiculous. Okay, and then the next one is his first Hobbit iteration, which I think it's almost exactly the same as it is now if you give him the heavy armor and the extra elven made sword. So he's 140 points. He's got the fight 7, 2-up shoot, strength 4, d6, 3 attacks, 3 wounds, courage 6, 3/3/3. And I think Blade Lord works the same as it does now. Yeah. Yeah. So basically, yeah, like this was just like crazy awesome fighty version of Thranduil, which I don't think you see this iteration of him that much anymore because most people just go, I'm just going to take the circlet as well. But I do miss the option for old underpointed Thranduil with just the magic because 90 points for that was ridiculous.
Yeah, I like how they retooled him in this new edition because it pays homage to the OG, but it also keeps the fighty one that we see in the movies. So, like, the current profile is really just like a combination of both, right? He's super versatile. Brings me back to episode 1 of this podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I do agree with, like, I think the way most people run him now, which is, like, you always go with the fighty version. Because, like, the thing that made this magic-focused version of him so good was that he was only 90 points. If you want to build something like that now, he's going to be, like, 130-something points. Or 140 if you give him the bow and stuff. So it's, like, that points difference is huge.
Okay, so the next one is going to be Erkenbrand and how he's changed. So when he first came out in the Two Towers supplement in around 2006, he's still like the captain level sort of stat line that we see today. But the Horn of Helm Hammerhand, you activate it once per game. And then at the beginning of the fight phase, all Rohan models on the battlefield count as within 3 inches of a banner. So it's like a one-time battlefield-wide banner. And then in the next edition of the game, it changed to +2 courage instead of the previous ability. So the Horn became like a huge courage buff. And I often see him allied into an army just for that +2 courage. Also, it was a way to gain Fight 4 Riders of Rohan with his Westfold Red Shields upgrade. And in the new edition, a lot of people, including myself, forgot that got changed. Westfold Red Shields now just count Erkenbrand as a banner effect instead. But that was a really easy way of getting in Fight 4, especially last edition where Riders of Rohan weren't the best picks because they're Fight 3. And I think Erkenbrand was a great pick. But now he's different again.
I think these were good changes because the problem with last edition is if you were going to run Rohan, you had to take him, or you just weren't going to run Riders of Rohan, which really limited your list. So, like, it makes sense. And I think he's probably at a fairly good balance level now, I guess. I mean, I kind of wish his upgrade did something else, but it's not bad. The change to his horn over the years, very interesting. I don't know if I love the battlefield-wide banner thing is good, but it's only one turn, so I don't know like if that's absolutely amazing. If it was like a banner effect that you could stack with another banner, that would be.
If he had that battle-wide banner today, and you took him in Aomer's Legion, and you activated it at the same time as the Shade effect, that would be a devastating turn.
That would be really good. That's a good point. Yeah, that would make it really good. That being said, I think the edition after this when the horn just became a flat-out +2 courage to everybody, and he was like 75 points mounted on the horse.
Yeah.
That, I think, was like Erkenbrand's like peak. That was also when he could upgrade the Westfold Red Shields. I think that was peak Erkenbrand. Like, he's so good. There's no reason not to take him. And I did. I took him in a lot of lists.
Every Rohan list, and whenever I hear the name Erkenbrand, I'm just reminded of all the games we had pre this edition where Erkenbrand was everywhere. And now he's nowhere. Now he doesn't even, like, he's essentially been pushed out of, like, all competitive Rohan list building.
But it was like that, and I used to, like, ally him with elves, and I just have courage 7 or 8 elves just running around, like, we're invincible to courage. Like, it's so stupid.
All right, Ian, I think the last one should be yours. It's one of your favorites.
Okay, so this is from when the Battle of Five Armies was first released. And it's basically like a souped-up Legolas profile, some that we affectionately call Megalas, because he's Mega Legolas.
And to make the Ultra Mega Me.
Basically, his profile is like exactly the same in terms of the way the special rules and stuff work, except for his deadly shot. This is back when it just auto-hit. You didn't need to do the 2+. And it has, the war gear is like the same. So he has the armor, the elf bow, and Orcrist. I think Orcrist works the same as it does now. Yeah. He has options for a horse. Might Will Fit is the same. The biggest thing is in his base profile, and that is that he's fight 7 and 3 attacks. And his points cost is 125 points. This is a profile that so many people got mad about and were upset about. And, like, I'm not entirely sure why, because, like, I get it. It's really good, but he also pays for all of the upgrades that he gets, and he still is, like, it turns into a combat hero, but it's like, yeah, but he's still only defense 5 with 2 wounds. So, I don't know. I love this profile. I was very sad to see it go.
I don't think if you go by the way we calculate costs now, like, because right now he doesn't get Orcrist automatically, right? And having an extra attack and extra fight value, let's say that's around 10 points a piece on a hero. So you're essentially getting Orcrist for 5 points.
No, he's 125 points in this one, and his base cost right now, if you look in the Mirkwood list, is 95 with the armor. So 30 points for Orcrist, the attacks and the wounds.
I was thinking 100, yeah.
I think it's 100 in the Fellowship one, but that's because he has the final count special rule.
Last edition, he was 90 base in the Fellowship. So I guess if you compare it to last edition's Fellowship version, then he is significantly more expensive because he went up in points. I feel like the main purpose of it was just how invincible he looked in the movie, in the third movie. And they wanted his fight value to match Bolg because he beats Bolg. And it makes more sense that he's about as good in combat as Bolg. That's how I reason it, at least.
And I think why it's so frustrating too is, like, yes, like, I guess you can say it's similar points efficiency as the current one, but right now the current Legolas has a weakness. It's in combat, and you're essentially removing that weakness, and he's still quite an affordable hero. Like, I don't know, like, this is like in the range of like a Thorin or like, you know, Thrain or like Thror right now, and yeah, You can't tell me that you wouldn't rather have Megalith.
Oh, no. Trust me, I love this profile. I want to take it like all the time. Like, it is fantastic. I mean, I guess he doesn't have the Elven Cloak, but like, you don't really care. Like, dude, running this profile mounted up, and then you took the Thranduil, like the normal Thranduil profile with the fighty version, like having the two of them together was disgusting.
The one thing he didn't need in the last edition with this was the Elven Cloak. Because think about it. What's he going to hide from? Nothing. Everything hides from him. It's impossible. The day this got nerfed was like, I remember
the saddest day of my life.
I remember the memes because there were the videos of guys being like, I just painted up my Legolas or my Megalith, and they were like, Megalith has been nerfed, and they were just like the saddest thing. But at the same time, yeah, I mean, it was a Legolas that could do everything.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
I think Mirkwood. I'm not saying Mirkwood's actually still fairly competitive list now. If Mirkwood had him in it now, with the army bonus it has now, it'd be so good. It'd be so good.
Before we end the episode, I just want to mention the sponsor for this video, Baron of Dice. They make nice looking dice for a wide range of games, including Middle-earth SBG. You can use our promo code WEST for 5% off. Go check out their dice on the website. And I also want to say a quick thank you to our patrons over on Patreon. Thank you for supporting us. And if you're interested in extra content and seeing videos early and other perks, please go check it out in the link below.
So these are the profiles that we've picked out from previous editions, and it's been fun comparing them to their present forms. Let us know what you all think. Thank you all for listening, and look forward to the next episode of Into the West.